Hey my friend, I thought today I would show you a little bit more of New Zealand and we would talk a little bit about dealing with the disappointment of a DNF, a did not finish. Obviously not quite the result I wanted at the Tarawera 100-miler, but super thrilled to see Thomas crush that sucker and pick up that jade necklace. That was pretty amazing to see him finish his first 100-miler.
Your propensity for resilience is unbelievable. It really, really is. And your outlook on life is, I don't know what word to put on that. Inspiring, maybe. Because even this whole time that you've never complained about it or anything. You had that one moment where you broke down, and then you said that you were just enjoying the disappointment of it, which is an interesting concept.
If you run ultramarathons, you know that a DNF is inevitable in your career. It's almost as inevitable as disappointment is in life in general. So I thought today would be a great opportunity for me just to reflect on how I deal with the disappointments of a DNF, a did not finish in a race, and really disappointment in life in general. You know, after months and months and months and months of training, after spending thousands of dollars to fly halfway across the world for my dream race in Rotorua, New Zealand for my 51st birthday, to say I was disappointed that a flu bug knocked me out at the start line would be a bit of an understatement. So how do I deal with that disappointment? Well, the first thing for me is really allowing myself to lean in to that disappointment, to embrace it, to allow it to fully come up and happen, not ignore it, suppress it, or pretend that it doesn't exist, but really to just sit with it, take a pause, and allow myself to feel that disappointment. The second thing that I do is reflect on the fact that it's all just part of the process. For me, running is not a one and done thing. It is a lifestyle choice. And we talked earlier in some of my previous videos about making a commitment to the process. And when you understand that disappointment and DNFs are just part of the process, it makes it that much easier to accept when they do happen. You know, it was interesting. On that last transition area where I saw Michelle, she got Dave Proctor, my coach, on a video call. And I explained to Dave what was going on, that my stomach wasn't doing well. And one of the questions that he asked me I thought was very profound. He said, "Is it pain or is it discomfort?" And I thought about that for a minute. And at that point in the race, it was uncomfortable. It was discomfort. And I told him that, and he said, "You know what? You can push through discomfort. So get back out there." So I did. Now, obviously that changed probably an hour or so later, and that discomfort became pain. And I played that reason or excuse game that we've talked about before. When making that decision to pull out of the race, I had to look at, is this a valid reason or is it an excuse to stop running? Because it's going to hurt. At some point in a 100-mile race, it's going to hurt. There is no question about that. But the fact that I just couldn't keep any solids down, I couldn't keep any fluids down, and my stomach truly was in pain, I just had to make the choice to pull the plug, to stop, and understand that that's going to come with a little bit of disappointment. One of the other things for me that helps me get past the disappointment of a DNF, especially in a race like this, a 100-miler, is finding the victories of others to celebrate. So in this case, I had the privilege of celebrating Tom's first successful 100-mile finish, and that was pretty amazing. So reveling in Tom's success rather than continuing to revel in my disappointment and allowing that to become despair, discouragement, or even depression. I think that's a fine line. I talked about being able to lean into that disappointment, not allowing it to discourage you and not allowing it to turn into a depression or a deep sadness. Just allowing yourself to experience that disappointment for what it is. And one of the ways for me to get out of that, like I said, is to find successes that I can celebrate with others. That was celebrating Tom's first 100-mile finish at the Tarawera Ultramarathon. It was a pretty amazing thing to witness, a pretty amazing thing to be part of. As disappointed as I was for my dropping out, I was extremely excited to see Tom finish that race. And the last thing for me was being able to reflect on what has now become a disappointment for me. I ran almost 50 miles with a flu bug in my stomach, and that's a disappointment. I tell you, 2 or 3 years ago, if you had told me that would be my benchmark for disappointment, I would not have believed you. So the fact that my benchmark for disappointment has been raised to such a level that running 50 miles on a bad stomach is disappointing is a pretty cool thing indeed. So I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments, what is it that you do to deal with a DNF? What do you do to deal with disappointment in life in general? All right, my friend, as always, continue to make beautiful shit happen. Have yourself a fantastic day. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we will see you next week.